Hey guys, so today I am going to be going over Sharon, and many of you should recognize Sharon as I have brought her up a lot, and she is the profile pic I use on my YouTube channel. Sharon's probably one of my artistically favorite designed units in the game, although her kit is pretty fun to use as well. She's got this really classy, noble fencer look going on to her, and I do quite enjoy that. She's got a nice fancy dress, her outfit has some pretty good detail to it. All around a beautifully designed character. But how does she play? Well, let's start by taking a look at her Kaigan. So for her Gate 1, um, nothing special about her Gate 1, just standard stats, like always. But where we start getting into some different stuff is her Gate 2, which is an additional 5% physical attack and +1 move to, I believe, her Warrior Chopping Spirit passive. And what makes this so good is one of Sharon's biggest weaknesses is her ability to gather jewels, or rather the fact that she has to run down enemies to gather jewels because her skills are relatively high jewel cost, and she's going to burn through them really quick if you have no way to sustain those jewels. +1 move will let you get to your enemies more effectively, saving her turns and getting her more jewels at the end. It's a quality of life upgrade, but for those of you who know how just strong 1+1 move can be, you should know just how great this actually is. Now, as for her Gate 3, her original leader skill was +50% HP, +40% physical attack, and +10 water resistance. However, this is going to upgrade to +10 thunder unit defense, which is essentially like a 10% damage reduction. It's an okay leader skill. It's definitely not the best because she doesn't have any ability to lead like a mixed team at all. However, it is still slightly better than it was before, and Sharon does have an evade component to her kit. So you should be getting this Gate to 3 at minimum. You really want to get this Gate to 4 if you can, and 5 if you happen to have some extra sins. Gate 4, like always, extra HP and attack. And for Gate 5, this is going to upgrade an attack, and I'll show you which attack it is inside of the map when I actually take her into a map. Overall, it's a really good skill to have. It's going to upgrade its damage modifier from 140% to 180%. Definitely worth getting. It's the Gate I will be working on next. Now for Nensos. So Sharon has a lot of options for Nensos, and they have variety in what they can do. So the first Nenso up is the main character 4-star Nenso, and this is going to be used for the Envy +13 slash modifier. There really isn't any other reason to use this Nenso. The Nenso leader skill 60% HP, whatever. No physical attack, no thank you. However, 13 slash mod is really easy to get a max limit break, one of these Nensos. Definitely worth getting ASAP, but there are some other options on what we can use if slash mod isn't going to be good enough for you. So if you want an HP based Nenso, you're going to want Belta's Nenso, as Sharon is part of Belta's event. She is also tagged onto her Nenso. Base stats on that are HP, and it'll give physical attack to the Envy group. And if Sharon or Belta are wearing the Belta Nenso, it'll also trigger a group skill with over 300 HP on it, making it the best HP Nenso bang for buck that Sharon can use with a little bit of extra damage. Unfortunately, it is a limited Nenso, and yeah, so you have to actually get a hold of the Nenso in the first place. I do not own this Nenso, and the best buffs on this Nenso are for Belta and not for Sharon. So honestly, the 4-star MC Stone Nenso is going to be enough. However, we still do have a couple of options that we can run. Let's say you have neither, you want HP, well, you can use the Monzine Nenso, because Sharon is an MB unit. Monzine is probably going to be one of your next better options for HP Nensos. This is basically strictly for HP. She's not going to get anything else off of this, and you're giving up the slash modifier for that. Likewise, you can actually get a slightly better slash modifier Nenso if you have a max limit break Zane Nenso, base Zane by the way, not the Zane skin Nenso. The problem with this is it's way harder to get your hands on a max limit break version of this, and until you actually have some limit breaks on it, the MC Stone Nenso is going to be better, and she doesn't really gain a ton of damage from having it maxed out like that. And the final Nenso that I can think of is actually the Zane Skin Nenso. And the reason we would think about doing this is because it has the NV HP group skill, and it has speed on its base instead of a useless stat, making it slightly better than the Mons Nenso, but since it is limited, it's harder to get your hands on. You know, proceed with caution. She can really benefit from any kind of NV group skill Nenso that you can get your hands on. It just has to have damage or HP on it. She doesn't really want any other stats. Speed is nice, but speed is rare on Nensos. I normally run her with the MC Stone Nenso because this way I don't have to move around a bunch of Nensos, and since she can effectively use it, it's nice to have on hand. Now, let's get into her. Let's get into her weapons and other gear. So she has her own sword from her own event, and unlike Ren, because Ren, don't forget that Ren is a similar class. She's kind of like Thunder Ren of sorts. There's many similarities between the kit. However, this is actually a one-handed sword, so Holy Cavaliers and the like are actually able to use this. It has 30 physical attack, 7 evade, and 10 jewel gain. The jewel gain is nice, but there are some other options that I have thought of running recently that I think might do better than for jewel gain purposes. However, you are going to want to use this weapon as it has an important skill attached to it. As for armor, generally speaking, you're going to want regen armor on her. You don't necessarily have to use the regen armor. You can also use the Ultima Scarf. I'm not going to pull it up because they kind of screwed over the UI for this. Otherwise, any other kind of HP gear is usable. I will mention that the Pierce Charge Up armor is a kind of niche choice on her, as she does have a single Pierce skill on her kit. I wouldn't say it's good enough, however, to justify using it, but just some fun food for thought. So, as I was mentioning, jewels are a major issue for her, so I have recently thought about using the Raid Pouch with her. This is going to boost her jewel gain up to 82 jewels gained on hit, with an additional 10 on crit, making it very easy to fill up her jewels so she can just abuse enemies with her kit with relative ease. However, you don't necessarily have to run this. There are some other good options, of course. You could run something like Snow Globe. It has evade, it has physical attack. It's basically just like slightly better of all the stats on your weapon, just not with that, although that's not really the best option, admittedly. You can run something like the Belva Pendant for some extra speed and jewel gain. Once again, it's just kind of overlap stats with your sword. Still, I don't think the best option. You can always run one of those 3-turn damage decrease items, such as the Crit Pendant or the Fuchiga VCR. Once again, that's very situational. Saint Meteor is always a good option. However, let's get into some of the more good stuff. So we have Levi's Teacup, and this is a great item because 1, it comes with speed, 2, it comes with slash modifier, and 3, it comes with giant modifier. So this is going to make her do more damage, have some more speed, because her weapon does not have speed on it, mind you. And it'll also give her giant modifier for certain maps where there are giant enemies. And that is actually relatively convenient because these days, these giant enemies have reared their heads more and more often, and also makes her slightly better at raiding. And other than that, there really aren't too many other things that I have seen that she might want to use. Strictly speaking, if you don't have the teacup, you can use Black Killer Fracagul's farmable accessory. This isn't the battery looking one, it is the one that looks like a shotgun or something. And that has 5 thunder all damage and 7 speed on it. So it's basically going to be the same thing as the teacup, it just won't have the giant modifier, which I think makes the teacup slightly better, but the teacup is a collab that is less likely to come back than a POTK rerun. So always keep that in mind. So I'm going to be demonstrating her with the bag today, and that way you can really see what she's capable of, because I definitely feel like she plays a lot smoother with this bag. And now that I've come down here, I've realized I forgot to go over her setup, but her setup isn't anything super special. We'll just go down here. That. So just a quick review of her setup. She's going to want to run her main and her sub, and at level 85 she's going to get an additional skill for her sub, just so you guys know. I like to run her with her unique, well, I guess it's sort of unique. I like to run her with her main job's reactive, although it doesn't necessarily have to be run with that. You can get some stuff out of the other parts of the job, parts of her other jobs. I just find them much less reliable. Not that her evade is super reliable, but you're going to want to run your attack and dex up passive from your main kit, and you're also going to want to run Chopping Spirit, as that was your upgraded passive. Just a quick note on some of the other stuff she has. She does have a speed up passive, and I think it even ups her move by 1. It's just Sharon needs all the damage she can get, or she just doesn't feel super good to use. She isn't going to be like one of those 30k nukers. She's much more about like status, evade, disruption type playstyle. Not quite like an assassin, but you get the picture. She's also going to have like speed and jump up from her Beastmaster, and I have actually run her Beastmaster a couple of times, just so you know. It is a legit thing. And she actually has the Thunder version of Spica's Warrior JE, and that requires you to be able to counter in order to make effective use of it, and it has to be like one space away. But if you do manage to get it off, she can actually pull off some pretty ridiculous numbers. I really have to test this in a raid scenario to really see what she's capable of doing, but it's pretty memey, but it also, when you do get it off, it feels kind of cool. I think I showcased Spica's JE in her actual video. So the first thing you're going to want to see is down here on her sub, she has this 10 jewel skill, and I'm actually going to save it for now. It's going to become important in a little bit. So first, let's get rid of this guy. And now we're going to go ahead and proc this. And there isn't necessarily a reason for me to do it in this order. You only get to cast this once per map, and it's going to give you a plus 40% attack buff. So you're going to want to save this for the opportune time to make the biggest impact. If you use it early, it's not going to turn out well. And one of the reasons why this is such a great skill, as you can see here in just a second, once she gets her turn again, is it's going to give her jewel gain, or rather jewel regen. As for her reactive, every single time she's targeted, she is going to up her avoid by plus 10, and she can get a base of up to like 27, which is going to let her get up to about 57 avoid, or rather evade. Quite a decent number. That's about Bolt level, to be honest, although she does not have like the perfect avoid reactive. Unfortunately, that would make her way better, but it is what it is. And if she had feint instead of some other skill, she would also be a lot dodgier. So if we go into her kit, you are going to see we have a lot of thunder attacks, and I'm going to be going through them one by one, starting with this first one, which you might notice is a pierce skill. So a lot of these skills are going to have after effects on them, so just to pay attention, I'll do my best to make sure I don't miss anything. So let's actually hop up here to the thunder unit, to the water unit, so I can show you this. So with the buff, remember these are all buffs. So the pierce attack is going to go forward 3 spaces, doing moderate amounts of damage, and is going to increase jewel spent by 150%. Not bad, but unfortunately there just isn't a great way to abuse this jewel burn, and she's got better skills to use. The next attack is this teleport, and what makes this teleport so good is, one, this is going to be her upgraded skill from her Gate 5 Kaigan, and this is going to increase her evade by 20 for 3 turns, which is basically 2 turns because it's action start 3, and this is going to let her, with max stacked reactive, get up to about 70 something evade. And just a quick note, if you throw the Christmas mittens on her and run her with a Nigel leader skill, she's one of the few units in the game that can reach 100 magic evade. So just pointing that out there. You do have to sacrifice some gear and stuff to actually make that work, but it's nice to know. it is a TP, and you are going to notice she has a lot of TPs in her kit. This is partially how she's going to get around the map. But as you can see, it costs 40 jewels for this, 35 jewels for the Pierce. These are not cheap attacks. If you aren't running some kind of good jewel regen, you're only going to be able to get like one hit off, one skill off, one hit off, one skill off. That's going to be a constant theme, and that's why I am running the Raid Pouch. So for the next skill, you'll see this is a 50 joule skill, and this is going to be your standard like BM AoE. It's going to be instant cast, and it's going to do 10% of the enemy's max jewels in jewel burn. It's not necessarily a phenomenal skill, but if the enemy is already low on jewels, you can burn them down even further and possibly prevent them from getting a skill off. Just some food for thought. It's not necessarily going to be your highest hitting attack, but it does do decent damage. Now for the next skill, I'm actually going to show this one off here in just a minute. Let's first show off her biggest skill. So this is going to be the single target nuke. It does have no act or days on it, and as you can see, the HP bar of that unit is black. That's not something I think Global has seen yet. So what this attack does is it reduces the max HP of an enemy. And no, that sounds kind of weird. Like, what's the point of reducing a max HP of an enemy? Well, for one thing, if their max HP is lower, it is going to effectively cripple their ability to regen. Since regen is based off of your max HP, let's say you have 100% regen, right? And you have, well, let's say you have 50% regen, rather, and you have 10,000 HP. Well, that means that each turn you would get 5,000 HP back. But let's say you reduce that HP by half. So you only have 5,000. Well, now you're only getting 2,500 back. And that's just one of the situations where this might be useful. I will say that I haven't really played with this much because I've seen some very weird looking interactions, and it might just be because I'm misunderstanding how the skill functions. But you can still kill enemies with it. If I hit that OK button right now, he's going to die. It's not like it's going to just reduce his max HP to like 1 or 0 or something. I don't know. It gets kind of weird, to be honest. I really need to study that more. So, moving on to the sub part of her kit. So for this first attack, this one really isn't anything super special to write home about. It's just a ranged attack. As you can see, it cannot pierce through enemies and go around them, so keep that in mind. As for the next attack, this is going to be another TP, but she's going to do a paralysis AoE around her. Useful if the map is susceptible to paralysis, which is not many, so not very useful. As for her next attack, it's 35 jewels, and this is going to cast move -2 on an enemy for 2 of their turns. I haven't ever used this attack like for its actual purpose, but I suppose there probably are maps where it could be useful. Any Taga players in the comments who actually have like examples of where these have been useful, feel free to leave those behind, or if any global players have an idea of where they think it might be useful, feel free to leave a comment. So for her main kit, or I'm sorry, not her main kit, for her weapon ability that I was selling really hard just a moment ago, it is going to be a ranged attack, and it is going to dispel buffs. This is relatively nice. Having a dispel is always a convenient thing. It's going to do, it's definitely going to be one of her highest damage parts of her kit, but she only has 2 casts. Do use them sparingly and as you need them. So let's go ahead and quick see what this attack looks like. Alright, and finally I'm going to quick show off what this 35 teleport is going to do. And this is a super nice skill. I'm actually going to cast it over here. So it's going to teleport you to a new location and give you move +2 and jewels used down by 50%. So as you can see, Sharon now has 7 move, and that means that she can cover quite the distance in a single turn. Note that it is only going to be that for a single turn that you have access to this 2 move. Keep that in mind, but otherwise, nice long distance. You can use this to possibly close gaps on enemies without having to take an extra turn where you might get hit. Overall, Sharon's kit is filled with tons of utility and sadly just not enough damage, but she is a relatively solid unit. She can get moderately high amounts of HP. Overall, I think she is a good unit to have. Is she mandatory for Thunder? Absolutely not. Now I'm just going to go through some more of these skills, show you guys what these look like. And with that joules down 50%, her 50 joule nuke is going to drop to 25 joules, just so anyone who didn't understand how that works now understands how that works. I'm going to quick reset this map because I don't want to waste the AP, and I'll show off the last few skills in her kit. And that raid pouch really helps her with her joule gain. Going from like pretty much 0 to 94 in a single turn is clearly convenient, to say the least. Alright then. So that is Sharon's kit and all her animations. So, what are my overall opinions on Sharon? How good is she relative to other Thunder units, and is she worth chasing? So, Sharon is a limited unit. She is adorable, and one of my favorite units in the game. But to say that she's mandatory for Thunder is just not true. She definitely has a nice kit. There's definitely uses for her. I used her for my floor 120 Neo Vita clear, and she did come in handy in that floor once I got her Kaigan so she could survive the hit that she needed to survive. You are going to really need her to be Kaiganed in order to be an effective unit. Pre-Kaigan, she just does not have the stats that she needs in order to operate at the same level as someone like Gerard or Meifon can operate with their Kaigans. So she's not going to be one of those like limited units that can operate without their Kaigan like Neferti or Carla can. She definitely relies on her Kaigan more than those two units. If you do get her Kaigan, however, she can be a very valuable member of your team, if not one of the best looking ones. So, should you chase her? Probably not. If you like her, is she worth chasing? Probably. She's good enough that I think she's worth fielding, but I don't think she's good enough that a free-to-play player should be chasing her. So, that's really all I have to say on her for the moment. Thanks for watching as always, guys, and I hope to see you next time.